Call the meeting to order. March 21st, City Council meeting in St. John. Give a blessing, please.
Sure. Pray with me, please. Thank you, God, for this day. And thank you for moving on the hearts of these city council members to serve the community of St. John's. Move in the hearts of these council members to govern with justice and peace for all men, women, and children. And be with them this evening as they make decisions that will serve the people of St. John. In Jesus' name I pray.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Any additions to the agenda? We've got a couple on here. Ned Marks is not going to be here tonight. His computer crashed a while ago. And Sid Arpin, BG Consultant, was going to be after Ned Marks, so we'll be going first. Any other additions? We need a motion.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? 5-0. Sid?
Okay. I think Lisa might also be on the agenda this evening. She may have some of the same discussion I was wanting to visit with you about, and that is the CDBG program is being announced, and they're having a workshop in Newton on the 11th of April. And I know back in December we had a discussion about infrastructure improvements the city might be contemplating if funding or grant funding might be coming through a Trump infrastructure program. Right now we don't see that happening as quickly as it could have, or not as quickly as what might have been advertised. Could be next year, what it looks like before anything would break. But right now there's still a program that's out there, and the city may want to take an opportunity to try to take advantage of that. And so what I was wanting to see was whether or not that might be the case. If the city's interested in looking into that, one of the things that you'd have to do is a survey to get verification whether or not your low to moderate income population would meet the 51% threshold. I believe the 2010 census had you at around 49%. So it's below, wouldn't meet it, so you'd have to do a survey that would qualify you. And if you recall the last project we did with the sidewalk, we had a target area, and that target area was surveyed, and it did meet the income limit, so it did qualify. And quite frankly, a lot of communities that are at the upper 40s percentage range have surveyed and have qualified. So I didn't know if Lisa would want to talk to any of that. Is that something that you
We talked about it last fall, and we were going to go ahead and visit about it spring when it came out again. That was the one we talked about doing fast or slow, and we decided to wait till spring to do.
But the thing that is kind of like, again, a threshold would be the low to moderate income levels. And so doing a survey of the community would be something that would be a requirement, and you could still try to pursue something, but you wouldn't be able to use that program unless you did qualify.
What kind of parameters involved in that, Sid, as to what the money could be used for? Do you know?
Well, that's what this workshop's going to be entailing. Here's just the flyer on it for everybody. But it can be used for any public infrastructure that's under the city's control. So if you've got a gas, water, electric, the sewer, the streets, anything that is a municipal operation, that would qualify. Now, typically they separate the water and sewer into their own categories, and those they'll grant up to $500,000 per one project. The community facilities is usually funded at a slightly less level. I think they might have some of those in here, but it might only be a $400,000 limitation. And then they had a special round, which is what the sidewalk was, and that had different funding parameters, different requirements. What we've seen so far is that they're going to require a minimum of 25% match, but most successful grants, typically they'll go 50-50. that gets them the most points, and that scores them the highest, and that's what you need to do to get the grant, is to score high enough to beat out everybody else, or whoever else is applying. But if you have an urgent need that you need to address, and grant money is hard to pass up when you have to spend it on, to do an improvement. The other loan mechanisms that are out there to match the grant, or the KDHE loans or the rural development loans, you can issue city bonds. But what's required with any of these would be the preliminary engineering report, and that basically identifies the need, identifies what the condition of the system is. If you're looking at the water, what the distribution, supply, and storage is. If you're looking at sewer, it's what the treatment and the collection system and any lift stations or any mechanical equipment, what conditions they are. You prioritize it. You find the need in each category, identify costs associated with those needs, and then you as a community would say this is our most urgent problem to fix, and then gives you the information of what cost it would take to fix it. That's all part of the application then. So, our involvement, of course, is doing preliminary engineering reports and design work. We would want to work with whoever you have as a grant administrator who writes the grant. We provide them all the technical data for whatever the improvement might be. I do have a little flyer just to kind of identify some of the success we've had on these types of projects. I think yours is probably one of the ones we count in here. But over the years, last, I think this is since 2009, how many projects we've been involved with through the CDBG program, and how they've the different types of projects that are involved, anywhere from community centers to water systems, lagoons, nitrate removal, water tanks, street improvements, done parks. So it's a wide range of things that can be done with this program. But again, you have to take a look at what the need is in the community and what you want to address, and then try to pursue that. And when we had talked back in December, it appeared that there might be some need in the wastewater side of things, or maybe if the sewer system has any repair issues that have been coming up frequently, whether you need to do a rehabilitation of it. I don't know much about your, the situation with your water since you've done your plant, but whether or not you need anything in that arena, this is the type of program that could help you out. But you do have to qualify with a low and moderate income citywide. Now, it's unfortunate, they do the census every 10 years. Yeah, I think you were at 47.7%. So it is shy of what you are eligible to apply. You'd have to see if you could meet the 51% before applying. At the workshop, they tell you what is involved with the survey, and what the city has to do as far as preparing a form, getting it approved, and then sending it out, and then getting so many responses back at that percentage, at 51+ percentage rate of LMI. We like to assist communities in pursuing these, because this is a good way to solve some of your needs. Any questions on the program, or what happens next type of thing, or?
Who puts on the survey?
Typically the administrator, the city or the grant administrator, which, that's what I was asking, is that something you have been involved with? Right, so if you have someone writing the grant, they would assist in doing the survey. typically you send out the survey in your water bill, whatever you have for maybe a city mailing, and then if you only get 10 or 15% response, you try to follow up with the second mailing, or at some point maybe you could go door to door.
What kind of response rate do they give?
They will tell us. They've told us different things over different. Do you recall what they might have? Because I know I've been involved with some where they won 80%, and then I've seen them in some where they've taken less than,
Less than 50.
yeah, less than 50. So I think they are less strict about how many. They are just wanting you to verify we tried. We sent it to everybody twice, and we got these responses. So giving you want to give everybody the opportunity to fill out and turn in a survey. The reason you would do door to door is if the response rate is such that you've gotten 30% back and you're not at the level that you need to be, well, you just need to keep getting more and see if you can't get to that level.
Unselected doors.
You say majority of these are 50% match?
That is what will get you the most points. So when you look at who's funded, they're not all 50%, but you see a lot that got funded are 50. And very rarely do you see, but you do. Somebody might be, $1.5 million project, and they have $1 million match. Well, sometimes they're using rural development, and rural development will provide that match, but they'll also make some of that grant. So it's not necessarily that they're borrowing $1 million to get $500,000 grant. They could be, but they could be getting a $400,000 rural development grant along with a $500,000 CDBG grant. And that's something else you will decide in the process. As you go forward with a water or sewer project, you are required to present your project to what's called the Kansas Interagency Count Committee. They call it a kayak meeting. And at that meeting, you'll have rural development, you'll have Kansas Water Office, you'll have the Kansas Department of Health and Environment, CDBG. Any discussion then on how you could fit your project with their funding will be discussed amongst them all. And then they would probably recommend, if you're looking at something, whether it's a better fit for a revolving loan through KDHE or a project through rural development. And typically rural development is looking at, can we assist you with some grant as well? And if you are a fit for their program and have the potential of getting grants, then they'll want to be the ones you'll work with. So we're getting to the point with a community like yours that would need to do a survey. You can't wait until March or June or May or June and decide, okay, now we'll get started, because you just won't have time to finish it in time. These Kansas Interagency Committee meetings, you have to have your preliminary engineering report completed, and that's about a 2-month process at least, 2.5 months. And then you have to set up a meeting in July or August. June, July, or August is the 3 months they have these meetings. And so if you're not ready by their August meeting, then if you go and submit a grant application without one of those, you lose 10 points. That's hard to make up. So you have to attend it or you lose 10 points. It's kind of like not having having something wrong with your application. They deduct. They score you that way. So, if you start in April, May, June, and then have your kayak in July or August, that gives you that April, May, June period to do your survey as well. And then the application itself, I don't think it says in here, they'll tell us at the meeting, but typically it'll be in October or so. But you'll have to have a couple public hearings in there too. a little red tape, but I guess grants always have a little red tape.
Lisa, is this something that you're going to be attending?
Yes, that's fine. I'm
Okay.
good.
Good. I think this is something that we could try for.
The thing to do now would be to see what you would want, what kind of a project might be a fit, and then also start making that arrangements to have an administrator think about doing the survey. And then once you decide that's maybe what you want as a water project or a sewer project or a street project, once you decide the category, then to get an engineer to do the preliminary engineering report for that project. So be glad to come back after this workshop, see where you might be. And were you planning on another presentation to them after the workshop as well, or?
Yes. But you're well, I mean,
Yeah,
we
might
can work on it
coordinate-
together.
Yeah, if we coordinate that, then,
That'd be good to get that information. So yeah, look forward to
And
hearing
that's,
what you have to hear.
the 11th, that may be the third or second meeting in April. Because I think their workshop's actually on one, is it?
It's
I don't know, it's 11th, isn't
the
it?
11th.
The 11th.
Is that when your meeting is?
No, or it would be the following.
Okay.
Forward to the 18th.
Okay, so the 18th would be
The
the,
18th, yeah.
yeah, that'd be the time to consider that. But if, in the meantime, if you have decided that you think that, or if you know now, that it's a sewer issue that might be the most pressing, or a water issue, or street issue, you know, whatever the category might be, the sooner and that can be identified, and the quicker we could be talking and identifying what a PER might write. Okay. Well, I appreciate you giving me the time this evening. I guess
Thank you.
I took the time of two guys, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. The only thing I have to say about that is we need to keep in mind 50%. We spent a lot of money last year. Citizen comments. Doesn't look like we got any citizen comments. I'd like to represent or talk to the council for a little bit. You know, last weekend, or a couple weekends ago, I heard several comments about the trees, and so I donated a truck, a trailer, and myself to help get them out of here because people just couldn't keep their britches still. Well, here's the reason that this was a problem. This happened during Saturday. I'll pass that around so you can look at it.
Yeah.
That's why it takes 3 hours to change some of these water meters, because that's what you've got. And when that looks like that, you can imagine what the can looks like, valves switched off and everything else. That happened 2 weeks ago on a Saturday. We lost 2 dump truck drivers because they had to go fix that. But that's the reason Jeff was not being able to get to the trees during that period of time. And I wanted the council to know what the deal was. That's all I got to say. I talked to Marshall and Mark. We had overtime because we worked them guys on Saturday and Sunday. I was right beside of them. I bought their dinner 2 days in a row. But we got the trees picked up.
I did ride with them one day, and it does. It takes a long time to pick those up. You gotta have to be on the ground helping them, and there's just tons of limbs.
I was hauling 5 of their little dump trucks in one load. And we got it done in a matter of 3 days. Whatever.
I'll tell you for sure.
But
We
now, if
finished
anybody
on
asks you, you can tell them why they laid on the street side so long.
And how many of them did we have to do like that?
Oh, we're probably in the 40s now, I imagine.
Couple
We're in
hours
between.
each one?
Oh, yeah, give or take. Depends on the meter, you know. We probably still got 10 or 12 to go. We have some that are leaking, some that won't shut off. You know, and we have some that, and this is probably partially my fault, when we ordered meters, why, ever since I've been here, when I went to work in 1980, every 2-inch water meter that we put in was a 14-inch meter. Well, I always figured that was standard size, because that's all we'd ever bought. Well, when the standard meters came out, they're 17-inch meters. So now we have to go back into those 2-inch meters and extend the opening 3 inches to get them in. So we let the meter guys go on Saturday. There was no reason for them to stay. Honest mistake or not, I don't know. But it happened. There's 8 or 9 of them that we have to change. We changed one today. But we're 98% in the ground, probably, maybe more. We're going to have a kickoff meeting next Tuesday to start bringing all the readings into the office so that they can be calculated. So we were going to do it this week, but we got so many guys going here and there. Pam was gone and that, so we're going to do it next week. But all in all, it's been pretty successful. But I would say we had probably 10% failure rate on valves and stuff. But a lot of them don't get turned for 20, 30 years. So this is what you get. We expected that. We didn't expect the nice weather, and that has made things go a whole lot faster. But it takes about 2 to 3 guys to a crew to do one, and it'll shut your day down. It'll ruin it. But we're going to get her. The guys have worked their tails off, and they've done really well. I got to commend every one of them. They worked like dogs a lot of days, and they've stayed after hours and finished up, so we didn't leave one shooting in the air. So. And we do appreciate Bob and his truck. I tell you, it made life a whole lot easier. But the following Wednesday, after they worked the weekend, we did finally get the last of them hauled off. So now all we have to do is wait for rain and a burn permit to be able to light it off. So
No burning. No burning.
No burning whatsoever. So anyway, but it's going about like we thought it would. So no surprises really.
Council, got any questions for me over that situation? I didn't mean to step on anybody's toes or anything like that. I just wanted to.
Appreciate your time, donate your time.
Yeah.
Okay, consent agenda. Approve the minutes for regular council meeting, March 7th, 2017. Appropriate ordinance 0321-2017 in the amount of
$54,312.55.
whatever she said.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? Passes 5-0. Public hearing and annexation of land exhibits A and B of resolution 2017-03.
I think you just need to open it up and assuming nobody's going to say anything and ask the audience if anybody wants to speak. And then
Anybody like to speak on this exhibit A and B? What this consists of is St. John shortstop
one of those
annexation.
tracks, if you recall, they consented to the annexation. Shortstop did, but it has to be contiguous, so we had to do the other side of the highway. Which means, I guess, your law enforcement can start running a speed trap if they want to.
They always do.
But, so there's no sense in doing it in 2 steps, and so we just did it all 1 step. And I didn't think anybody would oppose that you guys are going to bring that right away into the city limits. So if you guys are ready, you can ask for approval of the ordinance.
Any other questions or comments? I'd ask for a motion to.
Is that the resolution that we need to approve?
No,
The
you're
resolution
approving
is
the
what-
ordinance 1043-17.
Yeah, the resolution is what you adopted to set this hearing
That was
date.
what was in the packet.
So you need a motion on that?
I do.
I make a motion to approve ordinance 1043-17.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve this ordinance. Any more discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Passes 5-0.
Now, I will say that depending on what happens in the next year or so regarding the grocery store and that kind of stuff, at some point you need to probably recertify the boundaries of the city. There's a process to do so. I'll just kind of wait to see what the most appropriate time is now that you've expanded the city boundaries. But I think you need to wait just a little bit to see what's going to happen there.
Now you just need to close the hearing.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing for the annexation of shortstop. We're moving on. Burlington Northern.
He didn't make it. He told me he was going to be here, but I don't see him, so I guess he didn't make it.
Okay, we'll move on to department heads.
Can we go back to,
Yes.
have you guys seen that agreement regarding Prairie Exchange? They
I
have not.
haven't.
We have
Passed
seen
it
it.
I
out
think
yet
Ladonna and I
until-
are the only ones who have seen it.
Until we decide, I was waiting for them to decide exactly what
We
they
thought
were
maybe
doing.
he would explain it a little better when he got
It
here.
That's
really
why.
confused me.
Yeah, it
because it
confused me too.
It confused all three of us. So I was waiting for him to explain what exactly he meant by that agreement before I passed it out.
Okay.
My
It
understanding.
confused you?
Well, it's usually you see one agreement. You know, I thought there was some agreement to maintain some existing stuff and to put up cross arms in an existing location. And usually, as part of that agreement, Burlington Northern has to understand that there is a process the city has to go to in order to vacate part of that right away. And all that I saw was some kind of agreement to put up cross arms.
Arms are up and have been up for a long time.
So I don't know what the heck's going on.
So I don't know. Yeah,
And
we
then
thought
they
it
kept
was a little
saying
weird
Prairie
too.
Street, and there was, I don't think there
Yeah,
was
and then
really
we
anything
discussed
mentioned in
not
that
Prairie,
first
but
stretch.
moving it to Exchange, and that's what I told him. And I think somewhere in between his discussion with me and the office, they sent this out before we sat down to talk. So really, it's probably just scrap paper, but he can work that out when he comes next time.
And access across those tracks, that's considered a property right. So you guys have to pass a resolution, give notice of a hearing 20 days down the road, and then adopt an ordinance vacating certain parts.
The biggest problem with most of that down is there that the railroad owns 3/4 of it now.
Yeah, see, we just need to figure.
So
Yeah. So I guess if he's going to hear at some meeting in the future, we can talk.
That's my guess.
I'll try for next time.
Okay.
So,
You done with the railroad? Okay, moving on, department heads. Is the grocery store task force still going, or is it
I'm gonna take it off.
the flunk, or you want to take it off, or what do you want to do? Take it off?
I'll take it off.
Lisa, you got some fantastic news for us?
I know. But on these CDBG grants, what I need is whether you want to do any applications. I'll bring you back information from the meeting. But we've talked about sewer and infrastructure. We've talked about industrial park versus renovation of the current sewer system. We've talked about the WIT Center. We've talked about the recreation center being built somewhere else. Within this, you can fix the buildings up around the square. The owners get the grants, but there's a way to do that through these grants. And we've also talked about upgrading the swimming pool, and I do not know whether that would go through community facilities or not.
We've
Do
not
you?
seen them fund
I
the
haven't
swimming
either.
pool yet.
Yeah, I haven't either, but I didn't know
Never
whether
know.
it was a possibility. And so what I need from you is some direction, whether you want to go for a grant like that and which way we need to go. And I don't need that tonight, but I need you to be thinking about that so when I get back from the meeting, we can be ready to go forward if that's the way you want to go. And if you have no interest in doing it, then I don't need to. And then we also have that USTA grant that we haven't made a decision on a tennis court, if you want to clean up the city tennis court or not. Josh Meyer said if the city goes ahead and cleans up those tennis courts down there, he may not do anything with the other tennis courts. He's not sure we need 4 in town.
I'm not sure
That's
the
not
city needs
official, but it's a thought process that maybe we only need 2 tennis courts.
Is the schools better than the cities?
They have cracks this wide in them.
But is it still better than ours?
You know, yours is all crumbled underneath that mat.
that's the reason that mat got put on there.
And so, I don't know which one's worse. What would you say, Jeff?
I would say that the school's probably all in all is in better condition than ours is. And the big wind a week ago got all the wire on the north side of it. We haven't had time to get back up there and pull it up and get it hog tied back up there yet, but it took the north side of it off. So
Would there be a way we could maybe do something together with that, with the school, make it a community school?
I wondered if we were gonna spend the money, if we'd be better off to put it down beside the other one and put them together instead
I
of,
mean, if they don't feel the need that there needs to be 4 of them, I would much rather try and work something with the school
yeah,
and help them.
to maintain one instead of, yeah.
Yeah,
I
maybe
understand
one step
the
after you do 2 of them.
I mean, I think it's a deal, and I think Lisa will say the same thing, that that's half the reason why they can't have meets here is because they really don't have enough good facilities to be able to use, you know, to get things going in some kind of reasonable manner. But, you know, we put that rug on there, oh gosh, 20 years ago,
Come on.
25 years ago, probably in the early 90s if I was guessing. So, and then it was because it was deteriorated so bad that, you know, the city didn't want to spend the money to tear it up and pour the concrete and that stuff. And the concrete is the biggest cost. I mean, any way you look at it, probably.
100,000.
I think we could do it cheaper than that, but still it's going to cost a considerable amount of money. I mean, I've got a couple of boys that are pretty good cement hands, but, you know, we've also got 17 other things to do, so. But it's whatever the council wishes to do. I mean, but I think if we pull the rug off here, it'd probably scare you to death. You probably would.
And the only problem with that is that is Memorial down there. What part of that is the Memorial?
The West End.
Maybe if you chose to work out something with the school, we could move the Memorial too, if that'd be okay with the family.
I don't, did the memorial include the tennis courts?
You know, I
Or
don't,
just the park? I think just the park itself. I don't know that there's, now I could be wrong, but I don't
It's-
recall there being anything with the tennis court and that East End stuff tied in with it, but I think mainly because of the ground that was given up there for the park itself.
on that side.
On the west, yeah, from
Because I noticed the memorial's within the tennis court.
Oh, there is?
There is a little square there with Mark's name on it.
Oh, that's right,
You know,
because of
like they
Ruby,
used to
because of
play
Ruby
tennis
Norris,
on the
that's right.
side.
I'd forgot all about that. You are right.
And
I
so
might have to look at that because it's been a long time.
I mean, I just don't want to mess up the memorial.
Yeah, sure. That might bear some looking into.
Maybe we can think about that and come back the next meeting on
I would
that
say
too.
think about it and come back to the next council meeting, and then, you know, maybe we can work something out with the school, between the school and the city.
Okay.
Yeah, get
If
something
we
done.
applied for that grant, could we still use it on the schools?
I applied for it both places. And all we're waiting for is the next step.
Just move that over to old business. Tennis courts, we're on.
Back to
Work
the
with
other
the
stuff.
school.
Jeff, is there something, I mean, sewers, what needs the most attention in this town?
Take your pick. I mean, you know, at different times over the years, we've spent some money redoing water lines and that stuff, but we're not near done. I mean, I think this episode of changing meters and stuff with, you know, the phone calls that Bob's received, I've received, and calls we've had in here that, you know, you can always spend money on water. The tower's 107 years old. You know, it's due for a major doctorate on the inside. It's got some problems on the inside that are going to have to be dealt with. The sewer, there's another deal that, you know, without going through the last pictures I have of these sewers, and they're all on VHS tapes, are about 12 years old. So, I mean, I guess it's just flip a coin and see which
Did
way
we
you want
not
to
get
go.
that with the GIS system stuff that we done?
Not inspection of the sewer line itself, manholes, yes,
Just
but not
manholes.
sewer line.
Okay, I couldn't remember what it was that they done.
So, you know, I guess it's just wherever you want to throw it, it could be used.
Anything else? You guys got anything else for Lisa? Okay, moving on, fire chief's not here. Madonna.
In your guys' packet, you guys would have seen a cereal malt beverage license application. It has passed. Chelsea's signed off on it. Marshall, Mike signed off on it, and Adam has signed off on it. So now I just need you guys to approve it. If you want to know where it's going to be located, it's the Mexican restaurant down here at the square. That's where it's at.
I've been asked by Jim Hood and the St. John Science Museum that they oppose this cereal malt beverage license, mainly for the personal beliefs from Jim Hood, and on the thing of Chapter 3, Article 2, 3-206, restrictions upon location, Section B. and I'll paraphrase here, unlawful to sell or dispense cereal malt beverage at any place within the city limits that is within a 120 feet radius of a church or school.
Yep, it's not.
Excuse me?
Don George checked on that for me.
Did it?
It is not within that 120 feet radius. It's past it.
It's past it. Okay. Well, I was asked to bring this up, so I have. So I've done my job.
Yep. So it's up to you guys now if you guys are going to approve her or disapprove her.
So moved.
Second.
We got a motion and a second on the table, passing the cereal malt beverage. Any more discussion? No more discussion, all in favor? All opposed?
Abstain.
Mark
I'm a member of the
abstains from the vote.
I'm a member of the
Passes
science
4-0.
board, so.
Jeff and I, we've done research on reconstructing the stage for the Jubilee and renting it. I think the best way of doing it for this year is to go the trailer route. That's going to probably be the cheapest. The closest renting facility that you guys have is Hutchinson. They'll rent you guys a 4x8 section for $28 for each 4x8 section.
But you can't get them wet.
But you can't, you have to sign a guarantee saying that you're not going to get it wet. So then you're looking at buying something that covers it, which they do. Just to let you guys know, it is a different company,
Yep.
but they will sell you a tent, rent you a tent. So
How big a tent you need?
as big as you want, they can do it for you, but that was getting pretty expensive. The ones in Wichita, we
I know where
could,
there's two big tents.
if you guys want to go the stage route, I can go the stage route.
The only difference is that we do this, it'll have to be outside.
If you do the trailer, it has to be outside the wall.
Next to the wall, but it can't be, so we can't
We
get it
can't,
inside the
yep.
square. I mean, we probably could, Bruce wouldn't like it, but we could. We
Yeah.
could get it inside there, we got trucks that could put it in there, but.
And the performers, I've checked with them, they have, I don't think it's the safest route for them, but they have performed on trailers before. He has said that they have done that. You
If
go
we
the
had two that
trailer
we could
route.
set side by side, we could probably shoot them with something that would hold them together enough, I think probably Bruce would allow us to do something there that.
Then you're looking at, instead of, we would probably have to get 3 trailers total. I can't remember how many we got last time for the band.
We got 2.
So you have to have 4 trailers total. You'll have to have 2 for the band and 2 for your stage. Now, of course, Bruce sent me a little note saying that whatever trailers we need, he will get for us.
He always said.
Have I asked him for 4? No, but he did send me a little note that said whatever I wanted, he would be glad to donate to us.
How much were the stage deals?
$25 for a 4x8 square. That's in
How many of them
Hutch.
would you need?
Well, the last
The
time
last-
it was 14 by 18 or 14 by 20. So it would take probably 3 wide by 3 deep. Take 9 pieces,
9 pieces, so 9 times 25,
$225.
$225.
Picking it up, taking it back.
How long was that? Just
That
one
would
day,
be,
or-
no, that would be for Friday. They would say we would have it for Friday, and then we wouldn't have to bring it back till Sunday or Monday. So
Is that a day or is that just
no,
the
that's,
rental on it?
that's just the rental on it. And I can call him back and check. He's out of Hutch and make sure. That's the closest one is Hutch. You can go to Wichita, but figured if we can use Hutch.
That's the handiest as long as we can keep it dry.
Yeah,
The
that
only
was
thing
his
about it
biggest
is
guarantees, that it had to be
You
dry.
put trailers on the outside of the square in the afternoon, it's gonna be hot out there on the.
Yeah, on the west side, it'd be like cooking chickens.
Yep.
Sure will.
Yep.
Of all the places, it'd be nice if we used the east side and moved the play and stuff to the west side, but that wouldn't work.
But then that $200 or $300 would be an additional funding that you guys would have to pull out of the Jubilee Fund, which doesn't get very much. The majority of the Jubilee Fund is all done by donations and stuff, so, that's just something else that would have to offset that. And we'll do whichever way you want us to do. If you want to get the little squares, I'm all for it. We'll get the squares. And
I don't know,
we'll
I
do
just
it.
think it'd be nicer to have it in the square.
I do too.
The grass would be a lot softer if somebody did happen to fall.
Well, and you're
Than
not
what
talking
concrete would.
36 inches off the ground either.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, you can get them any height you want, but I
Yep.
think these were a foot high, is
Yeah.
what they were, you know.
Yeah.
About like what we've been doing in the past.
So, do they deliver them or?
I think so. I think they
I know you
delivered
called
them.
them that day.
Is
You
that
said,
price delivered?
I think so. I would have to call him back
I
and
don't
verify
remember.
it. I can't remember what he told me, but, because then he got me going on the tent and,
we'll call him
Then
and
you
get
just
a
blew my
size and
mind.
get a cost to make sure that it's in.
Well, I mean, I know the fire department, we've got them 2 big old tents out there.
okay. Yeah, that was his
I'd have to
only
clear
thing
that
is
through
You know, as
that,
long as the weather is decent, we prefer them to be
Yeah.
outside because it's
Yeah.
usually fairly warm then, you know.
We
But,
used them at the beer gardens all the time, the big long ones that we
Sure.
had.
Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
remember how big they are, but
well, I can call him back and
I just think it'd be nicer if it was in the square.
it would be a
Easier
lot
to
like it
shade.
was last year. I mean, I don't think you guys are going
We
to compare
usually get
many
it back under them
complaints
trees
if
on the
you-
west side and it's usually
if you
not too
did
bad
it.
then,
And then you wouldn't
So
have to
really,
worry
yeah.
about storing it if you just rented the little squares.
you know. Yeah, I mean, even if we had to pick them up, you know, whatever, I mean, it wouldn't take long to get them up in the air and get them out of there and get them going to where the weather wouldn't bother them, so.
Because I'm almost thinking when we started talking about the tents, he said they come down and set it up. But
How much are the tents?
I don't think you have to worry about tents.
They're expensive, they're terrible,
No,
and especially for Memorial Weekend,
it was a big gulp.
yeah.
Because I think the tents we got are like 30 by 50.
Yeah, I think
think
his
you're right.
biggest one was, it was
And I think
it
the
was
30
in the
by 50 will
thousands.
cover yours, cover that
Oh,
easily.
easy.
Okay,
Yeah, easy.
well, I'll call him
And
back
we got
then.
2 of them.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll call him back then, and we'll start looking that way.
I think it'd be better if you went to.
Yeah,
Eight foot,
side
10
height.
foot.
See, we'd have to have them up high enough that we could stay a foot off the
Yeah,
ground and still do
In the
that.
square.
I
We got
think,
extra poles.
You've got a beer garden across the street, you're gonna eliminate this problem. Or not across the street, but down the road a little bit. Don't need nobody falling on that concrete unless.
okay, so I'll give them a call again and iron that all out. Okay, so since Bobby brought up the beer garden, we'll just jump right into that one. The city insurance covers the beer garden. It doesn't matter where you put it, it's going to cover your beer garden. They would like the vendor to have insurance on it because if the vendor doesn't have insurance, then the city takes sole responsibility and liability for anything that happens with that beer garden. Anything. Like he was saying, if he sold it to somebody and that person gets into an accident, they could come back and sue the city. Okay, so I have talked to Matt about getting insurance. He said to get insurance, it will cost him $800 to get insurance. He filled out the applications, he looked into it, he called me back on Monday, he said it costs $800. I called back the insurance company, and because they were telling me at first that he had to have it. But then I called back and I said, well, when I was looking through your guys' policy, there's no exclusion for a beer garden on there. And he goes, you're right. So he technically doesn't have to have it. And that's when he said no. But then the city takes sole reliability for anything that happens at that beer garden.
If you get sued.
If you get sued. If you get sued. And that's how it was in the past. And that's how
They're not
it's...
gonna know, they're not gonna know what, you're a vendor. If they do know you're a vendor, they're gonna sue both the vendor and the city.
And the city.
In case the vendor does not have insurance.
Right. But I said, we could put it on the city property. Yes, you can put it wherever you want. You're covered for a
You
beer garden.
require every vendor to have insurance, I guess.
We've never
If you're
asked
gonna
for
require
the...
one, you gotta have everybody in that square that
Yep,
puts the
and we
food.
discussed that last year.
And we discussed that last year. So
Have we ever had a problem?
you've had one instance that I know of, and that's when a person tripped. I think the fire department had it tripped and fell on the cement. That was like
On the curb.
on the curb. That was
Outside of the beer garden.
outside of the beer garden, but she was in the beer garden.
No, she
Getting in or
come out.
coming
She was
out.
coming out
She
of the
caught her
beer
foot
garden,
at the crosswalk,
but she caught her foot on the
On the
crosswalk
asphalt.
and she fell.
going to the bathrooms.
Correct. So that is the only instance, because I even asked Vicki.
So did we get sued? I mean, or what happened? Nothing happened on it?
Nothing happened. So,
They're
do
gonna
you,
need the bathroom.
well, and they do.
They put them, they have them in the
Last
back.
time I had
They
them in
were
the back.
back, yeah, last year they were back there.
Last time I had them in the back, so that way we had access to them. So I guess what I'm asking
It's
is,
more complicated, but.
do you want to just do it like it was last year and just keep it going the
Yes.
same way?
Yeah.
Yes. See what the-
That will
Yeah.
make me very
Fine with
happy.
that.
So then the beer
Fence in the
garden will be
bathroom So
over.
they can't get out.
So
Yeah.
what
What
are
we
you
had.
gonna tell the dancers?
What?
What are you gonna tell the dancers?
I haven't. Well, the dancers.
I told them they needed insurance.
I haven't sent the email.
Okay.
I didn't send the email yet. I was waiting for this.
And his
Well,
table and chair issue is taken care of as well.
It is? Okay, so I don't have to worry about
You don't have to worry about
Okay,
tables and chairs.
that was the next
They're
thing
already-
on it. Okay, perfect. Final thing on here is Dawn Siebert was in today, and she is, of course, running the Easter egg hunt. That's I don't know if it's a city one or however you guys call it. She is asking for the city to help support it by money donation. So I said I would bring it up to you guys to ask. I think last year we did $500. If that's what you guys want to do, I just said I'd bring it up and ask. And then if you guys do, then I need a motion.
We did it 500 last year. That's fine. I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second on the table. Any more discussion about the Easter egg hunt? All in favor? All opposed? 5-0. City Superintendent Jeff.
Well, most of it's already heard about the water stuff, and like I said, most of it's about 98% done. The only other thing I have is, and Marshall called me today, and we, some of you guys have been out and around while we've been doing this, have seen a vac tank behind Sooner's truck. We used to suck out around the water cans and stuff and pull them out of there. And I'd looked in last fall after I called early this winter, after I called mayors down at Goddard about some storm sewer cleaning. And I don't know whether I brought it to council and discussed it or not, but in order to do everything from the square east and south to alleviate what drain problems we have now, was about $30,000 to clean those lines there and go back to West Street where they drain into the ditch. And Marshall called me today, and he asked me, he said if I'd looked at Purple Wave, which ever since we sold stuff, I kind of every once in a while peek at it. There is a vac truck for sale on auction with the city of Hoisington. It's a 1985. It's had use. It has about 4,000 hours. The guy that does our water samples works around that machine. I talked to him today about it, and the bid on it right now is just a little over $2,000. It's got 500 foot of hose plus a vac tank, a 1,500 gallon water tank to jet with, and he seems to think it won't bring but maybe $7,000 or $8,000. And it just looked like maybe an opportunity that we could get some of our storm sewer cleaned without spending the money out, plus other uses that we would have for it too. But I told Marshall, I said, I think probably the best thing to do is just to bring it to the table, let you guys talk about it. We had Sooners suck out quite a few cans for us because you don't have to call locate in. You're not sticking anything in the ground, and they sucked one out for $40, and I can't even get tobacco out the door for $40. So, plus waiting 3 days after we call locate in before we can dig. So, it's been real advantageous, and I think we do have some storm sewer problems in the south end of town somewhere. Now, where it is, I don't know. But anybody that's been around when it's rained hard and been down that street in front of Ty Cornwell's and up there, there's a couple places at the corner it can get almost waist deep, and has a couple of times. So we do have some drainage problems somewhere. This would give us the opportunity to address them instead of paying somebody outside. And the truck has been well maintained. I'd like to go up and look at it if the council would so choose and take either one or two or however many of you I can get without getting a quorum in there. And I talked to Bob. Bob said he'd be willing to go to look at it. But the thing, it goes off a bid on the day of our next council meeting at 10 o'clock in the morning before we meet on Tuesday night. So
A little bit of background, I have some background in them, I've been around them a little bit. That vacuum pump is rich, and I haven't seen it, but if it's a big pump, it's about $30,000 pump.
PTO driven pump.
No, it's a hydraulic driven pump, and it's a big pump.
Can you change that?
It's a big pump.
Yeah. Can you do away with the $30,000 pump? But
No,
if it
that's
goes
what
back,
you have
that's
to
what-
have
that's
to
what
be able to
you want.
operate a super vac truck. It's got 4-inch hose on it, or 5-inch hose.
A 4-inch suction.
It's got to have a lot of action. The pump alone on a truck, if it's any good at all, a new one is about $30,000. Just the pump, just the rich pump.
What Gary told me, Gary Smith that does our water tests out there, told me that they sold one once before. And the only reason they sold this one was because they bought one, Great Bend bought a new one, and they bought Great Bend's old truck. But he said that it was working up until the last day they used it. And he said those guys will be more than happy to show you what they've done. They'll show you how to run it. They'll show you what they've done to it. You know, it might be an advantage. It might be worth looking at. So, and it's close. If you have problems, you can call somebody that's worked on it before. It's not something that you're just dragging out of a used car lot, you know. So, I don't know.
They are a very high maintenance truck. I mean, you get a lot of maintenance to it. You got to keep on top of them. Filters and stuff's got to be changed regularly.
You have somewhere that you can store it inside,
It has to be-
space available.
That would be debatable. We're kind of starting to run out of places to put things. I mean, we could make room for it. I mean, we've always got something we can put outside. We try to keep everything we got inside, but depending on how tall it is, I think, you know, now that we've got the water meter stuff out of there, and that it could probably go in the fire station somewhere. We could probably bring the grader back over here. We've kept it over there, so we had some room in the east room, but I think, or over here in this room too. I mean, there'd be a place for it, so I think we could probably find a home for it. But it's about the size of the big dump truck we have. Not the GMC, but the big International. It's on a 466 chassis, it looks like, so.
Tandem axle truck.
Tandem axle truck. Wouldn't be any bigger than what the bucket truck or the digger truck is, I don't think, or not a lot, to where it would still go in the C-Stream, but, you know, it might be a complete piece of junk, but I don't think he has any reason to lie to me. He said it'd been a really good truck to them, and they've used it a lot. But it's 30 years old, so I can't believe that it would bring a lot of money. You know, I wouldn't think he'd be out a lot of money by taking a chance on it, so.
Main thing you're going to have to look at is going to be the tank.
And he said they'd had the tank rebuilt on it, I believe.
So,
I think is what he said. He said, we'll show it to you. I think, in fact, there's a video on there that you can, that does show you how that truck
Does it
ran.
look
I didn't
that
look,
far?
I just didn't get time to look at it today. I had to leave this afternoon. But, you know, I think that they would be, you know, like I say, it's 45 minutes away. We can run up and look at it. I think they'll take it out and show us how it runs if they want to sell it. I really do, so.
What's it worth, Mom?
well, I would say it's worth $10,000, $12,000, $15,000. Be probably a pretty good buy.
We don't, Marshall and I don't think it'll go that high, but we don't know,
I
you know.
don't think it will, but
There's a 96 Kenworth setting in bracket. They're wanting $22,000 for it. Don't have a water pressure pump in it.
so it's not even operational.
And it's come out of a bankruptcy. Just parts gone off of it. They want $22,000 for it. But it's a 96 model Kenworth.
So it's
And it's
10
an
years
80
newer than
truck.
this one. I would think,
10 years newer and don't work.
Does it have a lift under it, Jeff?
yes. I would think 10 would buy it, I don't know.
I mean, it's so hard to tell you what to,
Yeah.
because it's an auction.
Yeah, it's anybody's guess.
I mean, I hate to say $10,000 and you lose it by $50.
Well,
I mean, but
but I think there comes a point there too where you decide that, you know, you're just not going to spend any more than that. I think we do what the billfold can stand, and if it doesn't, why somebody else owns it.
I would think we would be able to make that decision when we look at whoever goes and looks at it.
but we won't have a meeting before
No.
they end the
Well,
auction.
it'll be the same day. It'll sell the day that we meet the next time. But I asked Bob to go, and he said he'd be more than happy to go up with me and look at it. Marshall said he would too. So,
Anybody else wants to go?
you know, as long as we don't get a quorum, why we can
Yeah.
take.
You can have,
I'm
you
just
can have
married.
one more.
As long as, you know, we don't get a quorum, well, we can take as many as we want, so. But,
Anybody else wants to go? When you want to go, Joe?
Oh, anytime. I mean, I would prefer to go this week probably as the next week. I'm 3 guys short next week going to water school, so. But I've got a lineman going the next 3 days, so I can't go very far. But I think, anytime in the next few days, I'll call him in the morning and see. And I'm sure if we can make arrangements with him, we can go up in the next few days, sometime before the end of the week, maybe.
Could we say you guys could put a bid on it for up to 12,000 and then decide after you look at it?
I think I'd let Bob make that decision. He knows more about them trucks than anybody sitting around the table. I think he's run them all his life. So if it's a good truck, I think, I don't know.
Yes, you can. You have to make a motion.
So moved.
I just want to make sure I'm
Where'd
right.
that come out of?
But
For that?
we have a sewer utility fund that's got about $220,000 in it for maintenance and that stuff. I think it could come out of there. Instead of spending that money to pay a third party to come out and do it, then we'd save, if it works, if it lasts long enough to do what we got, we've saved $20,000. So
Can we farm it out to Stafford? Or
I think we could, yeah,
Or trade out something?
yeah, Sean and I have talked about that a lot. They've got some things that we'd like to have. And I talked to him earlier in the fall about that asphalt zipper, about using it this spring. And I told him then, well, that was after we were over working on this catch basin, and Bob stopped and said that day and told me about that truck down there at Pratt. And I said, if we'd buy a truck like that, would you be interested in doing some trading? And he said, you betcha. He said, we're in the same boat you are, we don't have the equipment to clean it. We can't afford to pay somebody to clean it. So it'd be a good trading item that we could run over and do that. And they could bring asphalt zipper over and we can save some money zipping that asphalt.
Second.
There you go. It works. So
We got a motion on the table, and a second to allow feasibility to spend $12,000 on a super back truck. Any more discussion? I might add to this, I don't know if you want to look outside the box or not, but I know there's 2 people sitting at this table that would lease that truck. I don't know if the city would allow that to happen. Anytime you get
We
to
got a
work
rental
around
agreement
fiber
on
optics,
equipment, don't we?
oh yeah.
anytime you get to work around fiber optics, I dig around fiber optics, Kevin Davis digs around fiber optics. With one of these, you don't have to worry about hitting fiber optic cable. So there's some options there. I think if it was a feasible truck that you could probably rent it out at probably a pretty good amount per hour.
I know they told me that they've set quite a few poles that way. They dig it up next to a gas line or fiber optic, instead of putting auger in there, they just jetter down.
There's lots of things that this truck would do outside of the city.
We've seen it do a lot of things just in the last few weeks with that little tank we've had, so.
That's what they dig pipelines out in all these gas gathering systems anymore, is super back trucks. We don't hardly run backhoes with those.
There's a lot of cleaning to them, but you know what? We get paid all day. It's not
Any more
a big deal.
discussion?
So,
We got a motion on the table and a second. All in favor? All opposed? Passes 5-0 to allow Jeff to spend $12,000 on a super back truck.
I'll take the mayor's help on that deal. We'll see.
When do you want to go, Marshall?
All you gotta do is let me know.
You
I'll
guys
make
figure it out.
work.
Okay, I'll call Paul
Jeff can
tomorrow and I'll
figure
see
it
what I
out.
can
I'll
do.
make it work.
Okay. That's all I got, folks, I think.
Okay, city attorney, John, you got anything for us? Or you already
Just
talked about it?
Just 2 things. We went ahead and filed that request with the district court to allow access to that property on 4th. It went out Tuesday, or what is that, Tuesday? It went out yesterday. So the landowners will probably be getting service at some point tomorrow by FedEx. And if they call and give consent at that time, then I'll make them sign something. Otherwise, the court will set some kind of hearing date 25 days down the road or so. And then LaDonna was preparing a list for me and gave me photographs of some other properties, and so we will start the
And
process.
I did not get finished of looking stuff up either. I apologize. I just have been busy enough.
Yeah, and I,
It's all right. Chelsea's on vacation this whole week, so I really can't do too much.
Maybe next week we can do something.
yeah, I
She
don't want
gets
to be
back.
signed by Chelsea.
Because Chelsea's the one that really has to go take the pictures.
Okay.
You and her will go do it, take
Yep.
pictures. She writes
That's
a letter. I send it on to John.
How many more did you get,
6,
including that one?
including that's including that one. But there's a couple other ones that I would question
I think are marginal, and I think I know which ones you mean.
and stuff, so that's just by me driving around. If we're gonna do that one, then why aren't we doing this one? That kind of thing, so.
Don't
All
know.
three in one block.
Don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and Jeff and I, we can go drive around and make our own little list. I only got 3 from Adam, and then I added some other ones.
I know 4 in a 3-block area.
So
Anyway.
we're getting the list.
Try my best to do this so that they're as bunched up as possible. I know, whenever I start hearing this stuff, I'm thinking, wow, they're going to get a bill from me at some point. So I will try to bunch this up as best I can. The way they assign judges in this judicial district is just by every other case, so I figured might as well file this one because the next one's going to be with a different judge more likely anyways. Plus, we don't really have to reinvent the wheel, so to speak, once we get the ball rolling on one. But, and the other thing is, now that we've got a new municipal court judge, there are going to be times when municipal court is happening that I don't think you need to pay me to be here. The next court appearance is mostly just a pre-trial. Trials all get set at the same time. I don't need to be here to prepare calendars or anything like that. So I'm just going to allow her to run things. Emerson used to just give me a call ahead of time, and then towards the end I was here almost every month, but really I don't need to be here, but maybe every 3rd month or so. So in case you stop in, I'm not here during municipal court. I'm not skipping out on
Saving
purpose.
us money.
So maybe.
So
Okay. Anything else, John?
That's it.
Nothing under old business other than the tennis courts that we moved in there a while ago. New business? I guess maybe that's new business. Executive sessions, we got non-elected personnel, 15 minutes to discuss job application.
Yeah, do you guys just want 15 minutes, or do you guys want more than 15 minutes? I mean, I just write down 15 minutes. It's just
I think it'll work. 15 work.
you want 15? All right, works for me.
Got a motion and a second on the table for a 15-minute
to
executive
include-
session.
To include.
Council, clerk, mayor, John, no, Jeff.
Council clerk, John, Jeff.
Everybody sitting around this table.
Yeah.
I mean, I had it written down that way.
Motion, got a second? All in favor? All opposed? Passes 5-0. We're in executive session.